but most of this show is not going to be Super Bowl centric because there really wasn't a whole lot to talk about with this upcoming Super Bowl. We're here to bring the big breaking news that NDSU is finally got an invite to join the Mountain West, and we had to bring in a guy that has more national titles than losses in his college football career. He is a 4-time national champion. If you ever watch a game from 2011 to 2014, you can see this guy downfield blocking the sexiest playing football. We bring on South Dakota native, 4-time national champion, former Bison, Trevor Gebhart. Trevor, welcome on. It's good to have you. Very exciting. Before we talk some this move here, I do have a couple of questions. We were in a group chat with Zach Willis, and so when I had him on in the preview episode this year, he mentioned Aaron Seidel and Nate Tangway were guys that put the fear of God into him as someone that scared him. It was a bit of his welcome to Division I football moment. Were there any? Who were some guys from going back to your redshirt and freshman year that put that fear of God into you, that welcome to the college football moment?
Well, the two that I would say come to mind, appreciate you guys having me. I'm excited to do these type of things, especially with the recent news. So this is fun to talk about. The two that come to mind would be, number one, Matt Gratzek. He was a senior in my redshirt year in 2010. And then the other one, who's become a great friend of mine and I competed against in high school, is Preston Evans. So being on the scout team, going up against those two gentlemen every day, especially if I had to play Wildcat quarterback, that wasn't exactly fun. So I would say those two for sure. But they definitely made their mark on the program, and we're all better for it. So grateful for them being there.
Yeah. I remember watching Preston Evans for sure. Big biceps, not Joe May's biceps, but still big. Wouldn't want to meet him in the A gap. My other question is so you being a South Dakota guy, what made you choose NDSU or SDSU? Were you recruited by the Jacks? What was your story? What made you come over to the better Dakota?
Oh man, this could take an hour by itself. At the time, they sold me on one of the facilities because Coughlin alumni was just not exactly up to par for what the Fargo Dome is and was back then. Obviously, since then, they've done a tremendous job in upgrading their facilities. But that was the big thing for me. And then the other piece was I wanted to compete for titles. I love winning. And that was spoken about loudly throughout my recruiting process. So that heavily leaned me towards going to Fargo. And then when I went on my official visit, I met a guy by the name of Brock Jensen. It was like him and I had known each other our whole lives, and we've been best friends ever since. So it just felt like home. It felt like the right culture fit for me. So that was really a no-brainer. And then to make it even easier, South Dakota State never offered me. So, that made the decision a lot easier. I remember leaving camp in Fargo, and I had a tremendous 3 days, man. I mean, those 3 days, I had never played that good of football in my life. And got an offer at camp like a lot of kids do, which I think is a great thing that they've continued. And I remember on the drive back home, when I was talking to my dad, I was like, if SDSU offers me this weekend, because I was about to go to their camp, I said, I'm going to have a tough decision to make. And I left camp. I didn't get an offer. And at that point, I started to lean heavily towards NDSU. And then I think the nail was in the coffin as soon as Brock and I met each other. So it all worked out for the better.
Okay. And Ethan, I'll let you guys ask if you got any other questions before we start talking the Mountain West news.
I guess really outside of the national championships, what was your favorite game?
Oh, Kansas State.
Yeah.
Not even close. 10 months prior to that, they were ranked number 1 in the BCS. which was the last year before the CFP came to fruition. That game, everything changed after that for the better. I mean, it became a brand. It became known. And then when College Game Day came a few weeks later, I don't recall exactly how long after, the whole operation was just different. It wasn't different in a bad way. You just knew that we were elevating the program to heights that I don't think any of us even foresaw. So I think that night in particular just sticks out in a lot of guys' minds. But just being able to basically say we've arrived and doing it against a high quality opponent in a fun environment, that was a special night.
And then in terms of like Missouri Valley road games, what would you say, what was the one stadium that a team whole collectively always regretted going to, where we were like, oh, we got to go here this weekend? And you had the whole, like the team side.
That's a tough question. I don't think there's one that I would say we disliked per se. All the coach cliches and player cliches of like, oh, business trip, this, and task at hand, that. I mean, it's true. I can definitively say that every single game in college, it was like that. We didn't think of it in any other way other than just like, this is the next task in front of us, and here's what we have to overcome. Now, I will say, because of the loss that we had at Northern Iowa, that was not a fun night. That was a brutal game, man. Just nothing worked. Our game plan was terrible. We executed like trash, and it got raucous quick. Then they stormed the field, and the win streak and all that was over. But if anything, we battled the opposite, where environments were just like dull. Like in Terre Haute, they've got the hill on the one side. Western Illinois, they don't really have a large contingent that comes out, and we're used to big raucous environments playing big time football games. When you're used to that, it's hard to get up for games when you're playing against people that just quite frankly care to be there. So I'd say we encountered that more than probably the other side of it. That was a good question.
Interesting.
Yeah, I will say that NDSU isn't getting away from the one-sided stadium, because San Jose State, they got stadiums on one, or bleachers on one side, and then just a grass field on the other side.
Seriously?
So, yeah.
What does it hold though? Is it like a Youngstown situation where like they've got like basically the big house on one side of the stadium? Because that thing goes for miles.
I don't know what their stadium capacity is. Let me see here.
Which stadiums have you guys been to? I'll ask you that. Like, what stadiums and games did y'all go to? I guess this is the first time meeting Ethan and Grant, and he's got a Gopher sweatshirt on, so I got some things to say about that.
TCF, Kinnick. Where else have I been? Honestly, for the most part, I feel like that's it. Other than just like small, like D2, D3 colleges around.
Well, you went to
Minnesota area,
like Brookings, Vermilion.
Oh, Oregon. We went to Oregon this year. That was cool.
Okay.
Brookings I've been to. But yeah, other than that, I can't think of any other ones that I've been to. Kinnick is the best though. Like I was actually working for Iowa the year NDSU went down there and won. So that was a little awkward. That was like the fall after I graduated from NDSU. So I was not very well liked that week.
That's all right. I wasn't either. I was in the end zone.
It was okay. I was fine with it. Yeah.
I was in the end zone when we kicked the game-winning field goal, man, and that was.
You might have ran right past me, to be honest with you.
That's all right. I wasn't quiet after that. I'll put it that way.
I don't blame you.
Yeah.
But I've been to I've been to TC, been to Kinnick. I haven't been to Brookings since they renovated. I was at the 13 game when we held them to negative 35 yards rushing. I was in the stands for that game. And then as far as I've been inside Montana and Montana State Stadium. I've toured the big house, but never been there for a game. So those are, and I've been up in the Alaris for some state high school football games, but I don't think I've ever actually watched a UND game up there. But I did look at their San Jose State. So from 98 to 2018, they had over 30,000. Now it's been cut down to 18,000. So about what the Fargo Dome is. So I'm guessing it looks like it is about a pretty big one side, and then it's just a hill and a press box.
Okay.
But
so it's essentially a smaller Youngstown is how I view it now.
Yeah. Yep. But Grant, I'll let you talk about your stadium that you've been to.
In terms of, the FCS in the Valley, just the Fargo Dome, but actually the first NDSU game I was at the NDSU Gopher game at the Metrodome. I want to say in 2008, maybe 2008. It was
those were 06, 07. They played.
Okay, so it was the year that NDSU got the win.
Okay, 07.
That first one there, and then another cool NDSU Division I game was at the Iowa State game in 2014.
Yeah.
Carson's first start was a 14 rip Iowa State, and then you guys pulled off a 34-0 run to end that game.
Yep.
So those are probably the two NDSU the FBS games I've been at. But in terms of like seeing the biggest stadium I've been to Texas, and then seeing Bedlam in Oklahoma when they played Oklahoma State. The last one in Norman, that was a fun game to see too.
That's cool. That'd have been a sweet environment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was 6:30 at night. It was November, so it was pitch black outside. OU got up 28 rip on them. And at the Palace, as they call it, it was just rocking. So that was a lot of fun.
Yes. And we're live on YouTube, and we have in the chat. Scott Maher said to tell you hi, Trevor.
What's up, Scotty? Appreciate it.
He's he's one of my good buddies. But let's talk some NDSU to the Mountain West. It's finally been a long time coming. I think fans have been waiting, chomping at the bit for this to happen for a long time. It was in Friday night when it really started to get serious, when Ross Dellinger reported it, that it wasn't some random blogger boy that was tweeting for the last year every week. Oh yeah, NDSU's joining the Mountain West. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It was like, oh, this actually feels real. So Trevor, where were you when the news broke, and what were your first initial reactions to saw the news?
Yeah, well, I think so. What I was doing, so I'm actually in the process of becoming a financial advisor. So I've been taking all my tests for that. My last one's on Friday, and I was doing some practice exams on my testing website. Had the kids in bed, so a lot of the work that I get done is while they're sleeping. And I get a FaceTime from Ross Uggla. And I'm on this timed test, mind you. And I wasn't worried about the time running out. But him FaceTiming me at that time of night is usually something has happened. So I answer it quick, and he didn't even say anything. All he said was, "Trev, it's happening." And my eyes got wide. I didn't say a word. And all he goes is, "It." That's all he said. And I was like, "I'm taking a time test right now. I'll call you back in 10 minutes. So I had a handful of questions left. I was almost finished with it. So of course I get on Twitter, see the news that everybody else saw. And I'm trying not to scream to wake my kids. I mean, I was just obviously through the moon. I've been wanting this for many years, as has most of the fan base and all the former players. Mm-hmm. So I call Ross back. We talked for 5 minutes, and then obviously just waiting for that news to be official through the weekend. But to answer your question directly, I was taking a time test on my computer when that news.
And then fast forward to Sunday, when it was actually tweeted out that Thamel tweeted out that they have officially to join the Mountain West. Where were you at? What was your what was your reaction when that happened?
I mean, more of the same. I mean, at that point, you felt like it had legs, and it seemed like, okay, this isn't going to get announced in that manner unless something is almost done or the ink's just waiting to be dry, essentially. I think I was at my house spot checking Twitter throughout the day just to make sure I didn't miss it. And as soon as I saw it, my dad was over at the time, and I told him that it was official and just started talking about all the fun, wild possibilities that can occur with this. So new opportunities, new excitement, new doors.
Yes. So obviously we're in the camp that this needed to happen. It didn't seem likely for the longest time. There's always going to be some naysayers. What is that you would say to the people that are on the saying this, they shouldn't have done this, they should have stayed at the FCS level? What is your response to that, to those people?
Yeah, there's a lot. It's very long-winded. I think the easiest way to just kind of like encompass it, or to give you an example, is, okay, North Dakota State loses in the first round this year. All right. So now they have 10 of the last 15 national titles instead of 10 of the last 14. What does that really change? Okay, if North Dakota State, and we had sat on the table and said, okay, hey, now there's 11 of the last 15, percentage-wise, it's better. But what does that really do from a needle mover and moving the program forward? It really doesn't. So I think there's that. It's like the only way that this program can continue to grow and elevate is by playing at a higher level. Obviously, the past results being 9-5 versus FBS opponents with 22 less scholarships. And that's, I think, one of the most underestimated components of this is now you've got a whole nother layer of depth on both sides of the ball, theoretically, 11-11, to add to that competition level in each room. And just having played there and knowing the type of guys that are in that locker room, it's not for everybody. And it's not to hurt anybody's feelings or to, sit on a pedestal. It's just simply not. It's a hard place to play. And it takes a certain type of mindset and personality to even make it through 4 or 5 years or however long you last. So I think basically the synergy of 22 guys being added becomes much greater because of that elevation of competition and the personalities that you're going to get in those rooms. So to me, obviously coming from a biased lens, but just from my experience trying to look at it objectively, I think it's only going to elevate the program further in ways that I don't think we're able to understand yet. And that's why so many former players have wanted this, because we've lived it and we understand that. So those 22 additional scholarships, I think, are going to be something we look back on in 5 to 7 years and go, oh, that added depth did wonders for us that we didn't even realize.
Yes. Grant, Ethan, you guys can fire away.
I mean, just to kind of piggy off what you said about, like, it's not for everyone, but that's why NDSU is who they are. That's why they've won 10 of the last 15. Like, it's a different type of culture that, to be honest, not many college programs have. And so, talked about depth, like, you're going to get into more recruiting living rooms now. You're going to get more NIL money. That's going to be one of the more interesting parts to me is how many of these people that are, like, kind of like us, Grant, where, like, you love NDSU, but it's like you're playing the same teams over and over. You're not, like, getting that exposure like Trevor was talking about. But how many of these people step forward now, give $100 a month, $50 a month? Like, thousands of that adds up, and you're going to get better players. You're going to get that depth, and we already know they develop better than probably 90% of the country in terms of actual, like, coaches and these players. The sky's the limit now. Like, they have a legitimate shot at the college football playoff in a couple of years.
Yeah, well, and I saw Polasek. He was getting interviewed today. I can't remember who was doing it, but he talked about with some of the guys that left in the poll is talking about the consistent top-level competition, or the lack of that top-level competition. Now that they're in at the FBS level, are they able to retain more of those people? You know, maybe they're able to keep a couple of those guys that left in the portal. Is something to also that's going to help them as well.
I think it really comes down to who tries to poach them, to be honest with you, Dylan.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
No matter how you shake it, North Dakota State can't compete with the Ohio States,
No.
the Miamis.
No.
Those pocketbooks are too deep. Now,
Mhm.
does that mean guys are going to turn that down? Yeah, that's happened. Ray Zabel did it. Bryce Lance did it. They turned down some very nice offers to stay. So, I mean, yeah, those things can exist. Now, I think it does help in terms of, like Coach P always says, like we can at least have a conversation with the Green and Gold Fund. You know, if you want to go make $500,000, $2 million, by all means, go do it. I think the biggest thing that needs to occur and why this timing for me, in my opinion, is going to work out is because eventually there's going to have to be guardrails around this. This isn't going to be the free-for-all wild, wild west that it's become. What I think is going to happen within this is you're going to have contract buyouts. So if you want to go get a guy like a Jabril Cox or a Marty Brown or something like that, right? Okay. You can poach that player, but you have to buy out the contract, similar like how teams have to buy out games. And that player is awarded some sort of monetary value, whether it's at the front end of the contract or renegotiated throughout their time playing. That money has to then get paid to the school. Okay, let's say you get paid $300,000 for a Marty Brown. Well, that's $100,000 you can use for other places you need depth or to backfill that individual. What does that do for a program with the right mindset and personality for a place like North Dakota State? So I think the timing here is good because they're in position for, if and when that does happen, to be able to take advantage of things like guardrails being into place to where you stop losing 5 to 8 guys to FBS, which is funny saying that now. That's not going to happen because they're just probably going to a power program. So being in this position now for when those guardrails do come in place, I do actually think will help us out long term. Now, I have nothing to stand on. This is just me having an opinion on something that I believe should happen and how I think it would translate to helping a place like North Dakota State and retaining some of those guys.
Grant, you're quiet.
Just you know, rivalries always they make college football so special. Do we still think, even though with NDSU moving up to the Mountain West, could we get NDSU, SDSU non-conference game every year? Do we think that game's still going to be around, or could this kind of the world of college sports? Are we done with that?
The short answer is I think it's done. You know, especially in the short term. You know, it's definitely hypocritical, no doubt, because you know, even as players and former players, we'd always cry like, okay, well, they need to schedule those games. Why won't you schedule us? It's because you know you might lose. And there's nothing of benefit to those teams to do that, and that's a fact. It's just a reality. That possibility exists. So you're paying a team to possibly lose the football game. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, do I think that an NDSU SDSU game is just never going to happen again? No. I'd imagine that it might happen every once in a while, but I don't think it'll be an every year thing where it's like the Dakota marker. So that, for me personally, that was such a big part of my life for so long. It is sad to see that go, but it's just kind of the nature of the territory of this happening as like a lone venture as opposed to what it was when both schools went from D2 to FCS. So time goes on, things change, and it just kind of is what it is. So I think we'll see the game eventually. I do. Because we don't shy away from competition, and if that's who's available to schedule, why not? You know, I just don't think it'll be every year kind of deal. Similarly to like the Nickel Trophy going away. Very, very similar, in my opinion.
And then
oh, go ahead.
Just to kind of piggy off that, who do we think in these early years in the Mountain West could become NDSU's new rival? Or is it we just going to have to play a couple years and then see how it folds, see how they're competing well. Are they top tier of the conference, a middle tier team? Is there an early favorite? We think, hey, it could be that school. That's the next big rival.
Well, I want to hear what you guys think. I know what I think. I want to hear what you guys think.
I think a team like South Dakota, like Colorado State.
So they're going to be in the Pac-12.
Yeah, they moved out.
Oh,
Yep.
I forgot about that.
Honestly, New Mexico, they're not anywhere close to each other, but like New Mexico seems interesting to me. Just a very sort of similar type program right now under their coach. Whether he stays or not, it's a different question. But hard-nosed defense. I mean, they damn near beat Minnesota this year in their bowl game. Run the football. So like that's one I could see because they are similar styles. But other than that, I mean, I have no idea.
Yeah, I could see. I thought about New Mexico because of the Jason Eck angle, and I think that's a big reason why I potentially. And I also think New Mexico is going to be a player in the conference this year. The other ones, I guess, for regionality purposes, you could maybe say Northern Illinois because they're both going to be Central Time Zone. And the other obvious one would be Wyoming because you have the Craig Bull angle. Tim Polasek coach there. There's a lot of crossover between those two staffs. Those are the three that I probably have in my mind that are the three favorites to be the rival. But I also don't want it to be where a situation of like the Central Florida UConn rival, the civil conflict rivalry. Like I don't want anything that's like where it's going to be like forced down your throat. I want these rivalries to occur naturally where, NDSU they're down a little bit and they go into a game late in the season and wreck a team's chance to play for the conference championship. I want something like that to happen. I don't want something that's going to be forced down the throat to get fans excited type of thing. I want it to happen just by the way it's settled on the field.
Grant, what do you think, man?
I guess so it's kind of the Pac-12 back in. Who kind of is the Mountain West right now, guys? I do need a refresher on that.
I'll pull it up here. San Jose
Air
State.
Force.
Yeah, Air Force.
Hawaii, UNLV, Nevada, the Wolfpack, Northern Illinois, UTEP, and Wyoming. Did I say Hawaii?
Yeah.
You said Hawaii.
UTEP,
Okay.
UNLV, San Jose State, North Dakota State, Northern Illinois, New Mexico, Nevada, Hawaii, Air Force. I think we got them all.
I think Air Force could potentially be one because I just again kind of feel both teams when you play, they respect their opponents. Not many teams are going to be making mistakes. It's going to be a very clean game. It's going to be competitive, and now going out west, NDSU has an opportunity to kind of recruit in that that Colorado area. I get it as a service team, but kind of maybe getting some guys from that region by Colorado Springs, that could be kind of fun and a very competitive game. So I'll go Air Force.
So Grant, you kind of started it. You touched on it initially, and then Dylan, you expanded a little bit. My answer is I think it'll be depending upon how this plays out on the field. Like Northern Iowa kind of became that with the whole Pat Pashaw getting ran into the wall thing. That's how that kind of started. They were the top dogs of the conference. That's who North Dakota State was trying to be. And so you get into some battles, some tough games. Those things just happen organically. The easy answer would be, okay, the regionality. So Northern Illinois and Wyoming, they're the closest. But if I had to pick a team, if I had to say who I think it will be, is I think it'll end up being UNLV. And the reason is, number one, they're kind of the top dog in the conference right now. So, okay, who does North Dakota State need to go emulate and beat consistently to be considered that? And I think we're probably there, if not there already. So the Mountain West is going to hate us for saying that, but it is what it is. But the other thing is like cultural differences. Is you've got this like farm country North Dakota people going to Vegas and vice versa. Now, those Vegas people are going to be shocked of the hospitality that exists in the West parking lot at the Fargo Dome when they go and tailgate. I think they'll be pleasantly surprised and enjoy their time there. But I think if you have some battles between North Dakota State and UNLV, especially in Vegas, I think you might see that turn into an organic rival just because of the difference in cultures and perception.
I never thought of it that way, but yeah, that I could see that happening. Dan Mullen, former SEC coach. Interesting, but how do you think it changes their recruiting approach as far as do they look to go out more towards California, or do you think they try to stay kind of where they're at right now as far as recruiting goes?
I'm sure it'll expand some, but I don't think that'll be answered for a couple of years. I mean, you got to stay grassroots. Now it's changed with NIL, but any solid, consistent, successful college football program owns their state, and that's at any level. And so I think you got to stay grassroots. The one thing that I do think it does is now you're the lone FBS school in a 3-state area: North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, or Montana. So I think kids with FBS aspirations in that tri-state area now have another option to go and play in Fargo. So like back when I was getting recruited, North Dakota State would come to South Dakota and take, the 1 to 3 kids that they wanted every year. Over time, it took South Dakota State a while, but they figured out, okay, these kids need to stay in state if we want to compete against North Dakota State. And they did a great job of that. They retained a lot of South Dakota kids, and they got a couple of national titles out of that. All right, good for them. Does that change now? Does that change the tune where South Dakota kids now want to go back to Fargo because they can play a higher level of football? So that's kind of the million-dollar question that I think will take a few years to get answered. But eventually I do think the footprint will expand nationally just because you're going to have to, especially if you're going to play, tougher opponents in non-conference play.
Yeah. And backtracking a little bit to the NDSU, if they're going to South State UND, I was listening to Ross's podcast before we got on here, and he talked about like kind of what Iowa or Southern Iowa does. They rotate between they'll play Iowa one year, they'll play Iowa State the next, about possibly NDSU doing that. And I'm kind of with you, Trevor, that, I don't, maybe a few down the line at some point, but I'll take the stance of I don't want to have to pay them and contribute to their athletic program. If they want to play us again, they can come up, they can come join the FBS, and then we'll kick their ass for free.
I mean, listen, I'm with you 100% all the way. Unfortunately, that's not how those contracts work. So if you're paying for a win, you got to pay them. I mean, it was the reason why we celebrated so much with our FBS wins. I mean, we made the university $2 million beating FBS teams. It's just like if you're gonna play a team with less talent based off what coaches around the country believe, and a lower division, you're buying a win. That's what those are for. Those schools will not play North Dakota State without getting paid, and I wouldn't either.
Yeah. It's going to be 7 figures now.
I don't know if it'll be that much.
I think Iowa was $750. I'm pretty sure.
Was it really?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I paid him $750,000. Wow. Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure that's getting talked about budget wise. I think Matt Larson even said they're going to try to get an FCS game this year. I would imagine South Dakota State's raising their hand and pounding the table on that, and I would too. I don't blame them. I think that'd be an awesome game. Cool storylines all around. And what a better way to cement ourselves and say, hey, look, like this rivalry is great. We'll do it again. We're not scared of it. The slogan that we have everywhere is bring on the competition. And I know that's been the big thing with this Climb the Mountain thing that they got to help raise funds for this. Don't shy away from that. Live by it. So who's raising their hand and want to play that game? I truly have no idea. But I would imagine UND and SDSU are probably right up there at the front of the line as far as raising their hand.
Yeah. What do you think is something that to really be a consistent competitor in the Mountain West, where is something on the field that you think NDSU needs to really improve to be that year in, year out, and then when they finally are eligible to compete or to be in a playoff and be a team that competes in the playoff?
I don't think we'll really know until we see the full styles of play. I mean, I haven't watched enough Mountain West football to really answer that to where I'd feel confident in it, Dylan. The cop-out answer, which is what I'm sitting on in my head right now, is I don't think anything needs to change. I think you need to get the 22 extra scholarship kids in, develop them as fast as you can, so that way you have that added depth. Because those schools have had 85 scholarships for a lot longer than we have. So playing catch up, so to speak, in that realm is you're going to need that depth throughout the season in order to compete consistently. You know, because you're going to play teams that are better and worse, just like any league. But I think your worst opponent, San Jose State, who I presume would be, I don't know that definitively, but just perception, I think that they're probably at the bottom half of the conference consistently. A San Jose State in comparison to like a Murray or Indiana State is a significant gap. You know, San Jose State, I would assume, would probably beat the brakes off of those two teams. So your bottom tier opponents are going to be much higher quality than what you were used to of your bottom tier opponents before. And that's where depth comes into play. So I think it's simply just developing the extra 22 scholarship guys that you get in, whether they're currently in the door or guys that, you know, will eventually be offered here now. So the style of play and all that, no, don't change a dang thing. That stuff wins.
Now, was for NDSU moving up the FBS, was it the Mountain West or bust the whole time? Because to me, that just felt like the right conference. Or was there maybe rumblings about another conference? I guess before this move, like I said, was it going to be the Mountain West, or was there potentially other conferences they could have moved to as well?
You know, I really don't know the answer to that, Grant. I think it's a beggars can't be choosers scenario.
Yeah.
I know up and down the program, everyone wanted to make the move if and when it came. The invite had never happened until this last weekend. But I think it was the strongest desire to go to the Mountain West. It was the best fit, geographically, monetarily, competitively. But if it was Conference USA or the MAC or the American, I don't know if it was a situation where they could sit there and negotiate and say, well, we're going to wait on this other conference. I think when the time came, it was like you had to go. So, I don't know the exact answer to your question, but I do believe the Mountain West was the highest desired conference by far, if they could choose.
Well, and James Madison made it work. In the Sun Belt, because they just had the trip to the playoff this year. So you're right, beggars can't be choosers, and their program's headed in the right direction.
Well, the funny thing about the Sun Belt, man, 10 years ago that conference was garbage. There was some bad football. I mean, it was basically a glorified FCS conference is all it was. And those teams were trying to get their footing, and then every year a new team was coming up. App State had a good year. Liberty had a good year. Coastal had a great COVID year. They had that McCall kid that went to NC State.
Yep.
And then James Madison came to the forefront. And I think that elevated everybody at that time. So it's a lot of former FCS schools in that conference. And it took them some time as a group. But right now, man, like Marshall, they go and beat Notre Dame a few years back. I mean, that has turned into a fun conference. And James Madison has definitely staked their claim by making the playoff, to your point.
Honestly, that's what gets me so excited about this. Sorry, Dylan. But you mentioned multiple FCS programs there. Go ahead. Sorry.
Or yeah, so I guess Ethan, I'll let you finish here and then I'll ask my next.
But no, I was just saying it just gets me excited finally moving up because you see all these old FCS programs that won a couple titles, but they've never done anything to the level of like NDSU did. And that doesn't mean like we're going to have like immediate success or anything once we get up there or make the college football playoff. But it just shows you that blueprint is possible, and it's been done multiple times now. So it does get you pretty excited about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at Mississippi State. They won 9 games this year, and they were never anything when they were in the Valley. But question, Trevor, is at what point in the last 5-6 years, because that's really when it started, was right after COVID. But when did you start to change your opinion that it was, yeah, this is it? We've had our fun here in the FCS. It's time for us that we need to seriously make that jump up to the FBS. When did you really start to come up with start thinking that that the FCS isn't what it used to be? We need to get out of here when we get the opportunity.
Well, the seed was planted the night Coach Bull left for Wyoming. That was, I mean, that season, man, in 2013. First of all, that group was special. That was an anomaly. That was so much fun, and the playoffs were basically a formality at that point. After that season was completed, it wasn't talked about a lot, but it was mentioned, amongst the guys. It's kind of like, would that make sense? It was just kind of more of like a future casting kind of thing. Like, well, competitively, yeah, we'd fit right in, but there's so many other variables that we're unaware of that we don't understand, being 20-year-old kids. But we knew there was a lot of things that needed to happen for that to occur. And then once schools like Sam Houston and Jacksonville State left, and James Madison, I think they were all within the same year or two. At that point, I'm going, FCS is just not what it was, and I sound like an old head talking well, back in my day, these guys were all, and they were, FCS was much more competitive in terms of high quality programs in the playoffs than what it is now. It's just so top heavy where instead of, 10 to maybe 15 teams have a reasonable say that they could go make a run, it's down to 3 to 5 at most, and once that occurs, it's such, what's the right word I'm looking for? It's a more non-competitive environment, and I just don't think that's what North Dakota State's about. And there was nothing left to prove at that point. So I think a few teams went. The teams from the SoCon went to the Sun Belt. Old Dominion, Georgia Southern, App State. They left, and then a few others leave, and then people like Sam Houston and Jacksonville State, who we would bury in the national championship games, they leave. I'm going, it's time. We got to go. There's nothing left for us.
Yep. What you brought up the Craig Bowl leaving Wyoming. What do you remember about when the news broke? Because you guys have just beaten Furman,
Yeah.
and what was and then all of a sudden on Twitter things start exploding. What do you remember about that night?
So I was sitting on my couch with my roommates, which was Brock and Ryan Smith. We lived together for a few years, and scrolling through Twitter, and I read it. It was one of those you read and you almost don't believe what you read kind of thing. And I just kind of paused and I looked up at Brock and Ryan. I noticed that they hadn't seen anything yet. And then I was like, guys, I think Craig's leaving. And they're like, what? I said, yeah, this reporter just tweeted out that he's accepted a job at Wyoming. And it was just kind of awkward there for a few minutes. Like, what? We're in the middle of the playoffs and our coach was leaving us. And back then it was unprecedented. It was like the first time it had happened. Now it's just commonplace. It was just very awkward. And then obviously we had the team meeting the next day and we kind of figured it out. And, we knew most of the staff was leaving after that. And it was like, okay, it was one last swan song to take care of business. And that's essentially what it landed on. So, yeah, it was really awkward there for like 48 hours. And then after that, it was like, okay, we're in the building. We're here to do a job. And it's kind of like you put your, I can't remember what Craig used to always say, bring your lunch pail and hard hat. That's what he used to always say with his cliche. So, yeah, we just wanted to make sure we ended it on the right tune.
What was that team meeting like? When because I'm sure there was chat sent out that said, "Hey, we got a meeting at whatever time." I'm sure you guys have seen.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like when he officially told you guys that he was going to Wyoming?
It was weird, but just because we deserved to hear it from him first, and we didn't. So obviously there's this underlying tension in there. In the moment, it's water under the bridge now. It's just history at this point. But yeah, it was definitely very weird. I mean, it was a long conversation between the captains and the players, and Gene Taylor was in there. But it all got sorted out how it needed to, and that's all that really matters at the end of the day. But yes, it was weird there for a minute. So, but there's no hard feelings, man. I mean, I had nothing but positive experiences with Craig being my coach when it was all said and done. So, whether we felt slighted in the moment or not, doesn't really matter at this point.
Trevor, what was the when they announced that Coach Kleiman was going to take over for the 2014 season? Was there like an automatic buy-in from the team, or was there some people in the room where they were like, maybe he's not the guy?
Well, I'll put it bluntly. The latter part of that was never, ever anywhere. As soon as he accepted the job and we knew it, everybody was through the moon. Because we knew with Kleiman being the hitter that we would be in great hands. And obviously his results in his career speaks for itself. And plus just the type of coaching man that he is. I mean, I have an unbelievable amount of respect for him. I mean, when he announced his retirement, I texted him, and we sent a few texts back and forth from that. And I'm forever grateful that I got to have that 1 year with him. And that was the one thing going into that season in particular. And naturally so, it's okay. A lot of folks knew that we would have a shot, but it was like, okay, that was a fun run. We had the team that we had in 13. We lose 24 seniors and our whole coaching staff. Like, I don't necessarily fault people for not picking us preseason number one or not thinking that we'd go win another one. But in the locker room, we knew we had a redheaded quarterback that was 6'5", and Chris Kleiman was going to be our head coach. We knew we were going to be okay. So, those things like, all right, we got the guy at quarterback that we need. We got the guy at the head job that we need. We're going to be just fine. So, yeah, fun memories for sure.
Did Carson just come onto campus with an absolute rocket, or did that take a little bit?
No, man, that ball whistled when he slung it.
I remember the first game I went to, we were watching Brock warm up, and we're like, okay, he looks pretty good. And then you see Carson, we're like, who the hell's that guy? Like,
oh yeah,
just flicks the wrist, it goes 50 yards. Like,
dude, big red man. So I'll give you a story. So he was a redshirt. Obviously, he was our redshirt scout team quarterback that we knew that had a rocket. Well, I think it was fall camp or like shortly after. He was doing scout team punt defense. And I was like third string punt. I'd maybe get like one rep every other week. So I'm standing there like on the punt team side waiting for my call. And the first punt team was on the field. Carson was lined up like right over the center. He breaks through that, jumps over the shield, and blocked the punt.
What?
And Polsek was a special teams coordinator in 2011 that year. And he starts blowing his whistle, like, and like charging and stomping his feet. He was so excited. He's like, "We got a great one." But there was kind of like a slight pause because everyone's kind of looked at each other like, did our scout quarterback just do that? Like, what? What the hell was that? So, Big Red, when he was 18 years old, he made a pretty large statement, not throwing the football with that, and he was won over pretty quickly from that moment.
All right. Well, and I'm sure there's plenty of them now. And you had a Carson story. Now I got to ask, what do you have a good coach story that you can share?
A good coach what?
Polsek story?
Oh man. I've got a lot, but I don't know if I'm comfortable saying I'm on a live YouTube broadcast. So, well, I'll tell you one. It is funny, and it is appropriate. So, when I was getting recruited, that same camp that I referenced earlier, it was that same week, and I was there at camp with 6 or 7 guys that were teammates of mine in high school. The high school I played at the time, we were dominant. We just had a lot of stud players and a lot of talent. So this is like day 3 of camp. We're in the warm-up lines on Dakota Field, and we're going through it, and everyone's like, as you know, back then, the inside of your legs is pretty much rubbed raw at that point. And Polsek can sense it. The energy is low. He wasn't having it. He blows his whistle for camp to start, and we had to run over to the practice fields. Well, now it's the indoor facility, but back then it was just 3 grass fields. So this is before the turf was even installed there. And he takes off sprinting with his microphone, and he's, yelling at everybody, doing what he does, that everybody knows and loves him for. And so I'm running, trying to keep up, trying to make an impression, doing all the right things. And he goes, "Just keep running. The chafing will go away eventually." And at that point, I'm like, this guy's nuts. But that was my very first story that I remember of Coach P. Was that?
That is a good one. But I appreciate you coming on and spending an hour with us. We like to wrap up the show with a non-sports related question. We call it Curveball of the Week. So Ethan, take it away. What is your Curveball of the Week question?
So Grant, we were driving to the airport the other night, and there was that truck that had those giant lights. It looked like a car was driving at you. Like they had these giant LED lights facing towards people driving behind him. I swear to God, me and Grant both thought there was a car driving down the wrong side of the road. So, What is the least favorite thing people put on cars that's extra that you guys just hate?
Oh.
One of the black smoke.
Yeah.
If you rev your engine and you black smoke coming out, I just assume you wear a tap out shirt and you need a microscope.
You drink Monster Energy and
yeah. you definitely
something else
commit felonies.
Something else Theo Vaughn would say that I'm not going to repeat. All right, Dylan, to your point, to add to that, the guys like when you have the dual exhaust coming out of the back of the bed of your truck.
Yes.
So kind of the same thing that you're talking about. That's an easy one, for me. But another one, I'd say when you have, it seems like the 6-inch lift on your truck, and you have the huge oversized tires. I'm just like, that just seems unnecessary. And that just seems like some unwanted attention that you don't need.
So that's mine, man. It's exactly that. The oversized tires. That's like a big thing in the South. It's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stand it. Maybe that's just the Midwestern in me talking. But I'm okay with it, and I'll stand on that hill. It's weird. I don't understand it.
You
gotta-
also, if you ever come out to Western North Dakota, out in the oil field, there's a lot. I remember when I was working out in the oil field, I remember I had to go fuel up, and there was a guy had his truck. It was that, and then just to top it off, his license plate said Flexin', and I'm like, oh God, you deserve to get your ass kicked.
I gotta go spinners on the hubcaps. It just drives me nuts. I saw one tonight and I got legitimately pissed off. It just looks so stupid.
People still have spinners. I haven't seen that.
Oh,
like
dude, all
years.
over the cities. Yeah, all over the Twin Cities.
Wow,
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, apparently I'm not looking hard enough. But God, spinners are wild.
It's Cadillacs every time, like Escalades.
I remember somebody when I went in elementary school, somebody that got dropped off. Kids that got dropped off, they had this like 1980s just beater car and it had spinning rims on them. Like that should not have spinning rims on it. That looks like a vehicle that shouldn't have any rims at all. But that wraps up this week's episode. Trevor, thank you again. We will have to have you on again sometime. You might have surpassed Willis. When he comes on, you might be a better guest than him.
That bar is pretty low. That bar is pretty low. So I mean, I appreciate it, but that bar is low. You know?
I think he actually leads the guest list. I think he has the most appearances as a guest. So we might have to have you on to give him a little run. Even though Willis is probably one of the more humble guys that we know, might have to keep bringing you on just to keep him down to earth, especially after the announcement that NDSU is going to the FBS. But thank you again for coming on. Make sure you guys like, rate, subscribe, leave a review here. We will be back next week to talk more. Well, what we're going to talk about actually. But thanks again for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.